Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be breaking down some of the best cores to use in Pokemon Champions. We're going to be primarily focusing on combinations of 2 or 3 Pokemon and why they work so well together, but with that, let's jump right into it. Starting this list off, we have Mega Floette Incineroar. And similarly to the past generations where we had a big setup fairy type, aka Xerneas. Yes, I'm old. Yes, I've been playing VGC that long. But this is really the core that reminds me of Xerneas the most, right? We get our big fairy type with fairy aura to boost those fairy moves. And right now, realistically, you're seeing Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, setup option, and protect. This is probably what you're seeing from a core like this. There's a few options in moves for the Calm Mind, but we'll get into that in a minute. But overall, your core here is going to be Floette and Incineroar to protect Floette. Incineroar with that Intimidate ability, of course, not only allows Floette to benefit from its lesser defensive stat, which honestly 74-87 is not even that bad, but Incineroar patches that. It also supports Floette in the sense of having Fake Out and is a nice fire type to help deal with some of these steel types in the metagame. On top of this, I generally think you're going to be seeing a redirector, whether that be Mousehold, whether that be Sinistra, both of which I think are very good right now. And you probably, I'm going to go Mousehold just for the sake of the video, but guys, realistically, the majority of this core and what you see out of this core is Floette, Intimidate or Fake Out support, and then a redirector, right? So probably more primarily here Fake Out, because you can go Floette, Fake Out, redirector, and have Intimidate as one of your last 3. But if you're running the setup option on the Floette, which I think is arguably one of the better ones, it's Floette, Incin, redirector, and I think overall that is phenomenal, right? What you want to do with Floette is it's treated like a Xerneas in my opinion, right? You do damage before you set up because you have a broken stat line. You can set up and then do even more damage. And overall, you really just want to try to find ways to get Floette into the game to win. Now, of course, there's different angles and different approaches where, you know, maybe you bring Floette in late, you bring in Floette up front. But regardless, overall, Incin and a redirector really do help this Floette function. You look at these stat lines here, right? You have to say I don't guys, I haven't used Floette, I'm gonna be honest with you, so ignore my spreads, right? But you probably put a lot of special attack, a lot of speed, decent amount of speed to hit a benchmark that you may like. A little bit too early for me right now to give you guys proper speed benchmarks there, but right, and then you put a little bit of bulk. Really just depends on the direction you want to go. A lot of options, but it's looking very similar to Fluttermane. We've seen it in the past. I've seen a couple people online say Terapagos. I'm not a huge fan of comparing this thing to Terapagos because I think this is actually better than Terapagos. Terapagos required you to set up. This does not need to set up, but it has a setup option, right? And overall, I think there's a few other tech moves as well. I think Psychic is very, very good to help deal with some of the Sneaslers in the metagame. Same with the Mega Gengars. I don't know if it would kill Mega Gengar, but overall, regular Sneasler is definitely going to go down. I can't believe I just said Mega Sneasler. I really hope we never have to see that day. Besides the point, you could also, in theory, go with like a Calm Mind and a Draining Kiss approach as well. But realistically speaking, you are looking at just having a very well-rounded team to close this out, as well as just you have this core of 3 now, right? The concept with cores, in my opinion, is you can kind of have an idea and just put a core on that, or you can take a core and you can work around that core, right? So if you really like the concept of this, you can maybe find another core that works well, or you can really just try to close out this core, right? I think you probably want a ground type. Guys, I'm going to be honest, Garchomp is broken. Garchomp is so easy to put onto every single team in this format. It is absolutely ridiculous how good Garchomp is. But now all of a sudden you have Incineroar, Fake Out, you have redirection with bulk for Garchomp, Incin, and Floette. You also have a Fake Out user and Intimidate to not only support Floette and Incineroar. And then you have the Fairy ground coverage, which is effectively perfect coverage because anything Fairy is weak to. Anything that resists Fairy ground hits. So it is incredibly strong of a core right here. Garchomp, once again, not necessarily a part of the core, but I think it's definitely a good direction to go in if you are looking to close this core out. Overall, though, guys, it really doesn't need to be a mouse hold, but the Follow Me is so good because you're able to get away from grass types. Not that there's many grass types that are stopping Rage Powder from working, but Follow Me is going to redirect literally everything into this mouse hold. You probably ended up going something like a Focus Sash, and of course, Instant is just being Instant, guys. We've known about Instant for a long time. Flare Blitz, it does not get knockoff anymore, but you probably go something like Darkest Lariat. And then you go, actually Throat Chop's better, right? Yes, Throat Chop's better, sorry. You go Throat Chop and Parting Shot and Fake Out, right? And you do something like this. In terms of the item on Instant, that is totally up in the air. There's a lot of different items you can use. Citrus Berry is very good. You could use one of the resist berries, like a Shuka perhaps, for the ground types. But overall, this is your main core of 3, guys. It is incredibly strong. And Floette just goes. It's going to be one of the best Pokemon in the format, so why not build a proper core of 3 around it rather than just have a Floette randomly slapped onto the end of your team. Core number 2 is going to be Sand. And guys, Sand has been around for forever. I find it ends up being a lot better in low power formats, and that is exactly where we are with this first format of Pokemon Champions, right? Not only do we have really good synergy between the Sand Setter and the Sand Abuser, in this case being the Excadrill, we also now have Mega Evolution. And I am just going to really focus on Mega Tyranitar for a little bit, guys, because when you look at this stat line, this just isn't okay. Like, we were looking at Floettes and being like, wow, this Floette guy is really good. But this right here, this is really nice. You have ridiculous attack. You have ridiculous bulk on both physical and special. And even though that special defense is a lot lower than the physical one, because you're in Sand and you're a rock type, you get the special defense boost still. So you just aren't dying, right? This piece does not die. It is incredibly strong, right? And not only do you have a piece that's really good, you're able to Mega when you want. So you can actually reset Sand if they try to change the weather. And then, of course, you probably run your normal T-Tar, right? Rock Slide, Dark Move, which I think is still knockoff in this generation, and then you probably get Dragon Dance is cute if you wanted to run some sort of speed option. You get a bunch of tech moves. I think like Ice Punch is a really cool option. Ice Beam if you wanted to go like mixed, but that might be straight out of 2015, so you guys can ignore that one. But Ice Punch, definitely a cool option. Curse is potentially a setup option if you're on a Trick Room team. Probably definitely want Protect to get out of some of the fighting moves, because that is one of the main issues for Sand, is those fighting moves. But overall, tons of different options here, right? You can go Superpower, I believe it gets now as well. So you got a lot of different options, and Superpower is very nice for the mirror matchup as well. But once again, moving on, we got Excadrill, and I know Excadrill got introduced a Mega Evolution recently as well. I personally think on Sand specifically, that Mega Evolution is hurting you more than it's helping you. Right here, you have better items, right? You have stuff like Focus Sash. You have, sorry, well, not Focus Band, but you get the point. You have stuff like Focus Sash. You have stuff like White Herb to eat and intimidate and take and just push it off to the side, right? So you have better items, and limiting yourself to the Mega when I think T-Tar is just a better Mega of the two seems a little weird. So you're probably going to end up, I'm just going to put Sash in for the sake of the video, but there are definitely different options there. Sandrush is really cool. High horsepower, of course. Iron Head to help deal with those Floette cores that we were talking about earlier. And this one, you kind of have attack move. I think you can go Earthquake depending on the rest of your build. You can go Swords Dance if you want to have a setup option. But more likely than not, you're also going to have Protect here. But once again, this is the bulk of this core, right? Being able to just make yourself go faster because T-Tar hits the board and in Sand is always good, right? Weather, guys, is going to be a concept on this list that you're going to see a lot moving forward. And Excadrill just does so well because Ground Steel is an actual incredible typing, right? Closing out this core, you do generally want something that can deal with the fighting types. A lot of players go Sinistra, some players go Corviknight, right? You can probably do both. I'm not sure if I've seen both. No, never mind. I lied. We've definitely seen both. Once again, it's not necessarily that you need both of them or any of them for that matter, but both of them I think help sand function and really take it to that next level. Of course, you do start building that fire weakness, right? You start looking at Excadrill, Sinister, Corviknight, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that fire weakness. But that's where the T-Tar comes in. You still have 2 other slots. You probably want some sort of water type, whether or not it's a Rotom Wash, maybe a Melodic to help stop the Intimidates, which could actually be something cute, right? Like maybe you want to do something like this instead. I can't type. Anyways, you want to do something like that instead, right? And all of a sudden now they really don't want to be intimidating you at all, right? Which really just allows Tyranitar, Excadrill to do their thing. Melodic is a nice bulky piece. It's that switch in that you need. Because when you play Weather, a lot of the times you're going to have to find ways to control the board state. And being able to switch is one of the key things when you need to control a board state. And having Sinistra and Melodic and other bulky pieces in the back really allow you to make that happen, right? You don't want to have Excadrill in the back and have to switch this guy in. He doesn't have a lot of defenses, right? You'd much rather have like a Sinistra or a Melodic to be able to take that hit and switch it in. Not saying that Excadrill can't stay in the back, but it's really tough to switch in, and sometimes you want to have these bulkier pieces on these more offensive cores to just once again give you that flexibility, give you the ability to allow the core to do what it does. And when it's Weather, like I said, positioning, pivotability, all those things matter. So Sinistro, not only is it redirecting fighting types away, it has Hospitality to heal up. This T-Tar that we've already established is ridiculously difficult to take down. And overall, just offensive synergies are really, really nice, right? Ground is a broken offensive typing in this game. There's not too many good grass types either, so Sinistra helps deal with some of the water types. And then Melodic dealing with the Intimidator. The main Intimidator, I should say, which obviously we all know is Incin, everybody's favorite cat. But overall, guys, this core is really, really strong. I would expect it to do really, really well. It doesn't need to be Melodic, but I was just kind of trying to pinpoint some things. The main core is T-Tar, Excadrill. You can kind of slap this on anything. I've seen a few people slap T-Tar, Excadrill onto Floette, because if you're weak to fighting types, all of a sudden you have a Floette. They don't really want to be bringing their fighting types. Double Mega there is a little odd, but overall probably fine. Moving on, we are going to combine the section here for Sun teams and for Rain teams. We'll start with Rain because I have it queued up right now. But overall, guys, I'm combining these two because both of these weathers, in theory, should be good. And in theory, they are going to be very good. However, on paper, yes, they've seen a little bit of success, but I frankly don't think anybody has like truly been like, yeah, this is the Rain team. Yeah, this is the Sun team. So I think there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you're allowed to run. And Rain's main issue right now is actually just the fact that they got rid of all the items. Which honestly, this is the team that takes the biggest hit. Because obviously Pelipper, you probably want to go something like Focus Sash, and that's fine. Archaludon used to absolutely love the Assault Vest. Right? Well, guess what? It's illegal. Basculegion on Rain used to absolutely love Choice Band or Life Orb, both of which are now illegal. So you're kind of left with Mystic Water, which is fine. It's not a bad item, and Basculegion obviously still a good Pokemon. However, in terms of the viability that Rain could have had, like if Arch had AV and Basque had Choice Band, this would be one of the more broken cores. It would have been first on this list instead of down here at third, splitting its time with a Sun team, right? So, yes, it took a hit. Is it still very, very good? Yes. I just don't think you can build an entire team around it anymore. I feel like before, in like previous metas when Rain has been good, it's always been, you know, I'm building a Rain team. But now I think you have to build another team and kind of add Rain to that, right? Like you want to have Rain as the secondary option rather than the main option. However, speaking of which, Archaludon obviously still very, very strong. One of the best Electro Shotters in the game, the only Electro Shotter in the game. I was going to make a joke about it being the only electric type, but I feel like people would forget about that and not really pick up on that one. But people have been trying all sorts of things on Archaludon, right? You get Electro Shot, obviously, which is really, really good at boosting your stats. You get access to Flash Cannon and Draco Meteor still, right? But my main problem is this item. There is not an item that I want here, in my opinion, that actually feels really, really good and makes Archaludon as broken as it used to be. So yeah, you can use Archaludon. It's still a decent Pokemon, but it's nowhere near what it used to be because now it gets kind of bullied on that special defense side where the Assault Vest can't save that. Stamina is cool and all, but it also lost access to Body Press. It doesn't get Body Press anymore. So that fighting coverage where you could like over time build up defense boosts and then drop a Body Press also no longer exists. So therefore, like, Lefties is cool, but it doesn't go as far as it used to go. So Archaludon definitely took a hit. So you definitely don't want to, I mean, you definitely want to use it, but I don't think it's definitely like, it's not as easily slappable, right? Before it was like, wow, I can use 7 Rain Mons and all of them are going to be good. Now it's, you really have to be more specific with how you build these pieces. So yes, Pelipper plus Arch, good. Pelipper plus Basque, good, right? However, when it comes to running all of these guys on the same team, those weaknesses really start to stack up and they're not as easily offset as they used to be. Still a cool team. You can of course change Pelipper to a Politoed if you want. Politoed is better fit for the Perish Song teams and stuff like that, normally paired with like Mega Gengar. But in terms of Pelipper, you do get that added boost of the Hurricane. But this is where I want to talk about potential change going forward in Rain. And that's actually going to be Dragonite. Because you don't necessarily need Pelipper if you have Dragonite as your Rain abuser. I'm not saying like, you know, run Pelipper, Arch, Basque, D-Knight, because I don't think you can in this format right now. I don't think Rain is that good. But I think you can definitely go Rain Setter plus Dragonite, Rain Setter plus like one of these 3 individually. And I think Dragonite might be the secret to breaking Rain and fixing Rain. It's a little weird because Dragonite gets a lot of mixed reviews. I am not a huge fan of running Special Dragonite. However, as we've seen in the past, Pelipper clicks Hurricane and it does work. But what if that Hurricane, instead of coming off of a base 95 special attack stat, what if Hurricane, one of the best moves in the game, is 100% accurate and coming off a base 145 special attack stat, right? And that is my concept with Dragonite. And it kind of just merges the Archaludon and the Pelipper together, which might give Rain the flexibility in the other slots that it needs to provide, right? Like, I don't think we're talking anything new here. I'm pretty sure people have been testing Pelipper, Dragonite, Pelipper, Archaludon. In fact, I think I've seen a team with all 4 of these guys, right? So I'm not like creating anything crazy. I'm not like, oh my goodness, you guys got to check out me. I'm so innovative. I think this is genuinely good, and I think other people are trying to figure it out. But in terms of how I think I would use it, I would personally do Rain Setter plus D-Knight, and that's just my Rain core. That's it. Everything else can be something else that functions a little bit better. Maybe one of the different cores you pick up on this list can merge in nicely, right? But overall, Rain's viability goes down, but it's still going to be very good because of Sand, because of Sun. So we're going to get into Sun real quick right now because I did say we were going to do that in the same mindset. And it's going to basically be off of Charizard Y. Now with Sun, you tend to see the more aggressive versions of teams come out. Charizard hits super, super hard, right? You do crazy damage, you have the Sun boost, and you get to go Heat Wave, Weather Ball, and then you pick a support move. And that's either going to be Solar Beam if maybe you're not running the Venusaur, or you're right? Or you run like an Air Slash, a Scorching Sands, an Ancient Power to win the mirror is always kind of cute and funny. I don't know if it's necessarily good, but you have options, right? You can run Air Slash if you really want that other stab, but you really don't need the Air Slash on this piece, at least right now. Could be cool for Sneasler though, but honestly, more often than not, with a Charizard team and a Sun team, you are sending fire moves, right? You want to be in Sun, you want to be clicking Heat Wave, you want to be clicking that Weather Ball into Sun. You want to be doing as much damage as you possibly can with this piece, and the fire moves are the way to do that. Now, my main concern with this core, and why once again it's not a core on its own right now, is everybody is ready for Charizard, right? It is not the, oh my goodness, this is like the Chi-Yu where it's like a random piece that all of a sudden does massive damage. This is kind of where you have to build your team around. And yeah, it does do really good damage, but you have to build your team around it. And when you have to build around your team around a 4 times weak Pokemon and you can't change your typing anymore, people are ready to deal with Charizard. We've already talked about Tyranitar. Aerodactyl is actually picking up in usage as one of the Charizard answers. Garchomps run rock moves, right? There are tons of options and tons of answers to Charizard, and I think that is what's making it feel less viable right now. Obviously, still a really good core. I think Charizard is really good because if you do not have an answer to a team like this, you are losing. There is no, oh, well, I can hope for the best of luck like some other teams. If you do not have an answer to a Charizard team, you are probably losing. This is kind of where you're going with Charizard, right? You want to get the Sun set up. You want to send your fire moves. You want to have Venusaur for support. And I think with Charizard, you kind of need that Tailwind option. So you have Whimsicott as one of your best Tailwind setters in the game. And then as I said at the beginning, guys, Garchomp is just going to start getting thrown on cores because it's really, really, really good. Right now, all of a sudden, you have you can Earthquake beside your Charizard, and you just start sending big damage. You probably want some sort of bulky water to close this out as well, right? Let's just go Rotom Wash for now. And you want the water type to be a bulky water that doesn't necessarily need to be clicking its water move. Like, Rotom is an electric type that just happens to have Hydro Pump, right? Melodic is another good example of this where, you know, you have that bulky water type, but you don't necessarily need to be clicking that water move because you're hindering yourself with the Sun, right? But you don't need to click the water move. The water move is there maybe when you're out of Sun. So you're allowed to just have that bulky water piece that functions as a great switch in and great support for if they try to switch the weather on you, right? They try to bring rain into this. All of a sudden, Rotom Wash, well, you have your water types. I'm going to click Thunderbolt, right? They try to bring sand. Well, you can turn off the sand maybe with the Sun, and then Hydro Pump starts hitting pretty hard, right? So it's just a really nice type coverage to have on these types of teams. So I would say you probably want to pick a direction here. You could probably put all 5 of these together, but I think you probably want to pick either Whimsicott or Venusaur. And then that would be your core. So you take one of these guys, and then you can probably go Garchomp, Rotom to close the core. And that's your core of 4, core of 3 or 4, depending on what you want. You don't need either of these either. Realistically speaking, this alone is probably okay. Well, guys, we're going back to everybody's favorite Regulation H core, and that is Sneasler Kingambit Basculegion. And this is a core that in recent memory is very, very good and is going to continue to be very, very good. Sneasler, of course, being one of the best Pokemon in the format right now. It does get access to cool abilities. Poison Touch is cool if you're running a Focus Sash variant. Unburden is obviously very cool. You can use Focus Sash here as well if you want. Like the Sash breaks and then you get double speed. More commonly though, right now you are looking at White Herb. Not necessarily a necessity. Tons of different options for Sneasler as well. But you're looking at something like Dire Claw. You're looking at Close Combat. And then you're looking at Fake Out and Protect more often than not on a core like this. You can run Throat Chop, but when you're running it on the Gambit Basculegion stuff, you tend to have a little bit more of a support and a keep myself on the field mentality than just running Throat Chop as you would normally see on like something like Sand. But anyways, Dire Claw, Close Combat, Fake Out, Protect. Sneasler on its own is phenomenal. Dire Claw hits pretty much a lot of the format, and then you obviously get the added benefit of the Sleep, Poison, or Paralysis. They did nerf it to 30 guys, but it's still very, very good. Close Combat, of course, hitting the Steel types, specifically other Kingambits, and that's where Kingambit really appreciates having Sneasler, because I could put any Fake Out user here, right? I could put Incin here if I really wanted to, a little less synergistic, but I could put Incin here if I wanted to. I could put a different Fake Out user here, like a Weavile, but, you know, there's other Fake Out users. What makes Sneasler the best Fake Out user for Kingambit is that ability to remove other Kingambits. Because generally speaking, you're looking at Black Glasses, and you run Mono Dark move, right? You run Kowtow, Cleave, Sucker Punch, Swords Dance, and Protect, right? This is what you do with Kingambit in general on this core, and this becomes very difficult to hit opposing Dark types, right? So opposing Kingambit do not like seeing Sneasler, so that's where these kind of fall in line really, really nicely. The Dark typing, of course, hits the Ghost types that Sneasler can't hit either. So the two right there are very, very strong. And Bascu is just such a nice touch to this team because it helps deal with opposing Sneaslers. It helps deal with opposing fighting types, and hits the ground types that break Sneasler Kingambit. It's just so good, and it's so fast, and that late game last respects. Like, you can punt through the entire team with Sneasler Kingambit. You get to an end game, and man, everything is gone, but I just have a Basculegion. Well, now my last respects is like base 200 power, and it's kind of broken, right? Adaptability boosted last respects. Basculegion, in all honesty, is probably one of the best Pokemon in the format right now. Definitely one of the best late game cleanup crews. And having it beside Sneasler and King Gambit just makes sense. Moving on to the last core that I want to talk about today. That is going to be Gengar. And there is multiple ways to play Gengar right now. So I'm going to kind of address Gengar I'm going to talk about a few cores that I think are really good for Gengar. And that first one is going to be similar to a 2018 core that we saw. And that's going to be Gengar, Incineroar, Kommo-o. And the concept of this core is phenomenal, right? You get Gengar to trap things in, and you can go Gengar Incin on lead. You would be able to effectively protect Gengar, parting shot off with the Incin, and hopefully be in a spot where once you click parting shot, they're in a spot where they're not able to deal with a setting up Kommo-o, right? You've now locked them in. Kommo-o is able to start setting up, and obviously there's no throat spray in this generation. I'm actually not sure what item they really run right now. I'd imagine Lefties is probably a common one. You get Soundproof or Overcoat. Both are good. Both are very good abilities, I should say. I'll go Soundproof to get around some of the hyper voices, but that's completely up to you. And then you get to go Clanger's Soul, which basically gives you +1 in every stat at the cost of some of your health, which is fine and gets 33%. And then you get to go Clanging Scales, which is a base 110 special move, which obviously it does drop your defenses, but this is kind of where you see this go. You get Aura Sphere, and then you're probably just going to run Protect, right? You get to run this, and back in the day, in 2018, Kommo-o had its Z move, and that Z move was based off of Clanger's Soul, and it would basically, well, Clanger's Soul didn't exist. The Z move is Z Clanging Scales, basically gave you that +1 boost that the Clanger's Soul gives you now. But right now, that's important. We don't care about 2018. We don't care about our history lesson. All that we care about right now is Incin, Kommo-o, Gengar. And guys, Incin, Gengar alone is enough to make this list, right? I could have had this core as just Incin, Gengar, and it's a really good core. You get Intimidate going down. You get to go Perish Trap very easily because you get the trap, you get the parting shot, you get to pivot yourself out. Gengar becomes a lot bulkier now that you have an Incin beside it. Overall, I could have just talked about those two. I think the Kommo-o is a very nice advancement into this board state, and you can absolutely close this out with Perish as well. And honestly, it doesn't even look that bad if you were to, right? You go Perish Song, which you're probably going to go Politoed, right? Let's go throw Politoed here. And all of a sudden, now we deal with that ground weakness that Incin and Gengar don't like to see. And Politoed helps cover that by having the Rain on the board. It also gets access to Perish Song, right? And then the whole point of this core is to kind of just stick around on the field. And I hate recommending Perish Song as a top core because there's a lot more to it than I'm going to click Perish Song, I'm going to wait for 3 turns. It is not, like, in concept, it is that simple. To actually play Perish at the high level, when everybody kind of understands the Perish at the core, right? It's very simple to go, well, I can't get Perished. I'm going to do my best to not get locked in and cycle around. So to be able to achieve that next success, that next level success with Perish Song, it takes a lot of skill, right? So it's not one of those ones where, wow, I'm just going to throw Perish Song on a team and all of a sudden I'm going to start winning games. It doesn't work like that. But it is a very strong option for this kind of core. So there's a few different options here, guys. Of course, you can just go Gengar Balance as well. Like, you can just go Gengar Incin and probably just close this out, right? Like, let's just put Garchomp here. Right? Like, you go Garchomp, Rotom. But this isn't, like, cool. This is, like, good stuffs. That is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about some of the top cores in the metagame. Of course, feel free to obviously make some changes, but if you're looking for a starting point on where to go with a certain team, this is hopefully the video for you. Hopefully this was able to help give you some sort of direction into the metagame, see where the metagame is headed. I do plan on making a lot more videos on niche Pokemon outside of the top core as well, so if you're looking forward to that, feel free to stick around. And of course, guys, if you do enjoy this type of content, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and of course, I really do appreciate it. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all in a future video.